Hello, hello, one.
I'd like to call to order the Douglasville City Council Legislative Work Session for tonight, which is Thursday, July the 16th, 2026. Our invocation will be done by the Reverend Dr. Camilla Terrell for Kingdom International Alliance Ministries. Good to see you. And after that, we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by the Mayor Pro Tem City Council Member Terry Miller. Please stand for the invocation.
I want to thank everyone, the mayor, members of council, for the opportunity to present the invocation tonight. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, in the mighty name of Jesus, we come before you with a grateful heart. We thank you for your mercy, your grace, and your faithfulness towards the city of Douglasville. Your word declares in Proverbs 3:5-6 that we are to trust in you with all of our heart and acknowledge you in all of our ways, and you will direct our path. Tonight, we ask that you grant wisdom to our mayor, city council, city leaders, first responders, department heads, and every employee who faithfully serves this community. May every decision made within this chamber be guided by integrity, justice, compassion, and a genuine desire to serve the people with excellence. Lord, unite this city despite differences. Let respect overcome division, truth overcome confusion, and peace overcome conflict. Strengthen every family, every neighborhood, every business owner, every educator, and every servant leader throughout Douglasville. We pray for protection over our law enforcement officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, healthcare workers, and all who stand watch over this community. Surround them with your divine protection and give them courage, wisdom, and discernment. Bless the children and the youth of this city. Give them hope for tomorrow, positive influence today, and opportunity that lead them towards purpose rather than despair. Let Douglasville continue to be a city where families flourish, businesses prosper, and community work together for the common good. As tonight's meeting proceed, let every conversation be seasoned with wisdom, every disagreement handled with respect, and every outcome bring honor to the citizens who have entrusted these leaders with their confidence. We declare that righteousness, peace, and unity will continue to dwell within this city. May your favor rest upon Douglasville, and may every person leave this meeting encouraged to build a stronger, safer, and more compassionate community. In the mighty name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for leading us in the pledge, and Dr. Terrell, we appreciate the invocation that will preach. So we'll move on to announcements and presentations. I would like to welcome you to the Douglasville City Council Legislative Work Session. I'm the mayor of the city of Douglasville. My name is Rochelle Robinson. This is a work session where agenda items are presented for discussion only, and no official action will be taken tonight. Official action will be taken, however, on these items discussed this evening, next Monday at our voting meeting at 6 p.m. If the business you're here for is not listed as an agenda item, there will be ample time under the agenda item comments from citizens and delegates for you to discuss your business tonight. I'll go over a few protocol items, and then to make you aware of before we start the meeting, I ask that you please listen closely so there will be no misunderstandings about how the meeting will be conducted this evening. I ask that you please keep your comments and presentations on a professional level, dealing with the facts that are important for this governing body to make our decisions. We will not accept comments that are considered by the chair to be of a personal attack on any individual or group of individuals. You will receive a warning from the chair, and if you deviate from this requirement, a second deviation will result in a request for you to leave the chambers. Only one person speaking at a time. Please do not applaud, react to speakers, speak from the audience, cheer, or carry on a conversation when you're at the podium, and be disruptive in any way. We ask that you would address all of your comments and concerns to myself or the committee chairperson who's running that particular committee item. I'll remind you that we're only required to accept public comments during the required public hearings. We are not required to accept public comments on other items before this council outside of the public hearings. Will maintain order. As a chair of this meeting, at any time during this meeting, I'm prepared to stop public comments on any agenda items if I believe the general good of the meeting will not benefit from the actions being taken by any member of the audience. If you have a cell phone or electronic device, I ask that you please put those in silent mode so they will not be disruptive, or you can turn those off until after the meeting. The agenda items will be handled in the following manner. The committee chairperson will read his or her item. That person representing that agenda item or applicant will make his or her presentation. This will be the first opportunity for you to present your information. Myself and council members will possibly ask questions to help us seek better information so that will help for our deliberation on voting next Monday. After that, the committee chairperson will ask for statements from the audience. There is a maximum of 20 minutes for those in favor of an item and 20 minutes for those in opposition, and each person has 5 minutes to speak. If you would like to speak, there are cards outside. It's a form now, I believe, and you fill that form out and hand it to our clerk's office, Ms. Gina, and she will put it in the official record. Each person has one opportunity to speak on the agenda item. No reappearances. If you think you have something that you forgot to say, we apologize. Make some notes. When you come up, you have 5 minutes, and that's it. This meeting is not a question and answer format. It is not a debate, but a format that gives you an opportunity to make a public comment or represent an agenda item. This is particularly important during our public hearings. We understand you may have questions about the information that's being presented. We will try to answer all of your questions. However, if we do not have the answer at that time, we will make certain that staff will get back to you at a later date. Please address all your comments and concerns to myself or the chairperson of those committees again, and not speak to the audience or directly to staff. If your information is repetitive or information presented earlier in this meeting, there's no need to re-present the information or the same information over and over again. If we have a zoning matter, we ask that one person will speak for that particular topic. And if you have printed material, again, give that to our city clerk. She'll distribute it to us later. And during the public comments from citizens and delegates periods, we will not address zoning items. They will be discussed during the public hearings for each zoning applicant, and the time to address those concerns is during the zoning time frame, not during the citizens of comments, not during the time for citizens' comments and delegates. So we ask you not to come back again and talk about zoning issues during the end of the meeting when there's time to talk about that during the public hearing. Allowing those comments outside of the public hearing violates the Georgia State Zoning Procedures Act. I know that's a whole lot of talking, a lot of information. Hopefully we're all on the same page and we have an understanding on how the meeting will be handled this evening. There are agendas outside if you'd like to have a paper agenda, but if you don't desire to have that, we do have the the agendas on the screen and on top of my head and in front of you. So that's it. That's a lot of information. We'll move on now. We're at the point of Economic Development Committee. And so we'll move on. Each item is handled through a committee. So we're finished with presentations and announcements. We'll go to Economic Development Committee. That's chaired by Mayor Pro Tem, City Councilmember Terry Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business under the Economic Development Committee at this time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We're at item number 6, which is Finance Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We
Welcome.
have 3 items under finance tonight.
Yes, sir.
Item A, adopt a resolution to declare tax parcel number 054818200003 being 3.97 acres owned by C. Jack Clower as not located within the corporate city limits of the city of Douglasville to refund 2023, 2024, and 2025 City of Douglasville real property taxes in the amount of $706.49, and to coordinate with Douglas County officials to ensure the updating of records in accordance with this resolution. And our staff attorney, Ms. Jordan, will handle this.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Madam Mayor, members of council. Miranda Jordan, staff attorney, 6758 Spring Street. Last year, Mr. Jack Clower visited our city council meeting and discussed a discrepancy with his tax bill, that he had been receiving a tax bill for city taxes for a number of years, but that upon his knowledge and belief, he was not located for this parcel within the city limits. We believe that there was an error made among the tax collection billing dating back approximately 15 years, and that the property was inappropriately designated as being located in city limits. The city staff did a lot of research, and a number of different agencies were involved in that research, including the county, internal city research, and with the State Department of Community Affairs, to determine that there had never been an annexation of this property, and that it in fact should not have been included in any tax digest for the city of Douglasville. This resolution will clean that up and will refund the last 3 years of property taxes paid by Mr. Clower pursuant to state law requirements. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Jordan. Anyone have any comments? No? All right, and so we've determined only the 3 years. Okay. And this, do we have any idea? I mean, this thing isn't very common, obviously. This doesn't happen very often.
No, sir.
But we don't send out the tax bills. I don't know how somebody ends up being charged in the city when they don't live in the city or have a property in the city, but.
This was a very unique situation. The county did a great deal of research and was not able to come up with anything other than there was an update that they did to their zoning map in 2010 where they supposedly caught an error. So it could have been even any time before that where it was supposed to have been designated one way or the other, and it was not. It was very difficult to tell, but we had to do our due diligence to make sure that the property was not, in fact, ever subject to an annexation. Okay. And the Department of Community Affairs was able to confirm that for us, as well as working with the city clerk's office on our internal records for all annexations.
Well, I'm glad Mr. Clower came forward when he did.
Yes, sir.
And I'm assuming that he's in agreement with everything that's been determined and arrived at as far as amount.
I believe that he would prefer to have all previously paid taxes returned. However, state law restricts any tax refunds for various purposes to the past 3 years.
Gotcha. Okay. So in light of all that, anybody else have anything before we move on? All right. I'd like to ask for that to be placed on the consent agenda for Monday. And item B, authorize the mayor to sign an amendment to the A133 agreement between the City of Douglasville and the Winter Construction Company, LLC, for the City Hall demolition services, adding section 14.5.3 on dumpster work. And Mr. Jacob Adams will handle this.
Hey, good evening, Mayor and Council. Jacob Adams, 4150 Ashford Dunwoody Road, Brookhaven, Georgia. So in Winter's initial agreement with the city, Winter indemnifies the city, which means they will hold the city harmless for any damages or costs incurred related to the construction of the City Hall building itself. As part of this agreement, there is language that modifies a city ordinance which prohibits any third-party haul-off for trash materials within the city limits. Obviously, right now we have construction going on, we have demolition going on, so right now Winter's responsibility is solely limited to haul-off of recyclable materials. This agreement is needed in order to transition that liability portion to the city for work that the city will be performing directly in regards to the haul-off that will take place for their trash. This is just a modification in the language that holds winter harmless if anything occurs with work being performed by the city. That follows the ordinance in place with the third party, with prohibiting the third party haul-off for trash materials.
Okay, thank you. Jacob, any questions or comments on this, Madam Mayor? Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Jacob, for coming in. So for city manager, I'd spoken with her earlier this week. You've gotten comments from people wanting bricks. So how do we respond to, they should not go and get the bricks? It's contaminated, it's asbestos, it's all kinds of stuff.
If people are interested in bricks, they just need to call 770-920-3000 and ask for the city manager's office, but no one should be on an active construction site.
Okay,
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor.
thank you.
Any other questions, comments on this item? All right, I'd like to place this on the consent agenda for Monday also. All right, Jacob, hang around. Item 3, or C, authorize the mayor to sign an agreement, to sign an amendment to the A133 agreement between the City of Douglasville and the Winter Construction Company, LLC, adding general site work services in the amount of $2,153,089 to be funded from the general fund budget. Mr. Adams.
Yes, so this will be a component GMP package. It'll be actually our second one. The first one that we issued was for the actual demolition of the building. A component GMP is generally done for items that are needed to advance the project schedule prior to the full GMP cost, the guaranteed maximum price for construction of the building. This is just done so in order to advance our project schedule to begin the site work as soon as demolition is complete. There won't be a lag in construction where the contractor will incur an increase in the general conditions without performing work on site. We want to be as efficient as possible with the schedule. So we'll be authorizing early release of these funds for that portion of scope of work only. This will not be an increase to the total GMP costs. It is merely just branching out that cost, approving it early on so we can continue that portion of work. And then we will come back here roughly in the next couple weeks to a month from now for the full GMP package for the remainder of the construction of the building itself. But this is solely just branching out those funds for that site work portion of work.
Thank you, Jacob. Any questions or comments on this item? All right, I'd like to place this on the consent agenda also for Monday. Thank you, Jacob Adams. Appreciate it. Madam Mayor, that's all we had tonight under finance.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and staff and Jacob. We appreciate that information coming to us. We'll move on to item 7, which is Housing and Community Affairs Committee. That's chaired by Councilman Relena Hudson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have one item under the Housing and Community Affairs Committee this evening. Item A, adopt a resolution approving the City of Douglasville's housing study. And we have Matrix Design Group here, as well as our staff member, Mr. Dana Gray, here to present.
Good evening, Dana Gray, 6785 Spring Street. Last year, the city felt it was time for an update to the housing plan, so we put out an RFP to those that were interested, and the Matrix Group was selected to partner with us on that particular study. We started in October. We selected those who can assist us as stakeholders. We had several community meetings, surveys, which assisted in this process, which helped us to know the heartbeat of the community, the dislikes, the likes, what they would like to see in the city. This report will help in that. It was very data-driven, so it gave statistics such as demographics, who's coming in and out of the city, providing those type of numbers, our existing housing stock. And the end goal was to have not only the study providing that information just said, but to give us recommendations of, based on their analysis, the directions that we can go. So it gives us the opportunity, and you all the opportunity, city managers and CD, to dive deep into that report and see what can be feasible. And it would definitely be, it'll come in stages, but what we can approach first, things that we possibly may not agree with, and make those adjustments as we go. So with that, without further ado, we do have the Matrix Group here to present to you. We have Christian Karen and Jen Todd Goins, who will present their findings.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you so much. We are very excited to be here to present the findings from the Housing Market Report. During the presentation today, we will include quite a bit of data analysis, stakeholder engagement outcomes. This does not represent everything in the report, but rather a summary of what we learned and some of the highlights of the outcomes. My name is Jen Todd Goins. I'm the Director of Planning at Matrix Design Group. I've been in community development, economic development, and housing for the last 20 years in both the public and private sectors. Love housing projects because they affect everything about the community, from the personal experience to your economic outlook and future growth, and very excited to share the results of our report today. I'll hand it off to Christian, who will walk us through the data portion, then I'll come back to talk about stakeholder engagement and some high-level recommendations before closing the presentation.
Thanks, Jen. My name is Christian Karen. I am the research lead at Matrix, where I head our quantitative research and data science group. I served as the project manager on the overall project. Just a bit about my background. I've been with Matrix for about 4 years now. Prior to joining the firm, I completed my PhD in political science at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill.
You can give us your address for the company, please.
What's that, sorry?
The address for the company, for your company, I forgot to.
Oh, 707 17th Street, Denver, Colorado.
Okay.
80202. That's it.
That was a test, huh?
Yeah.
But it's for our official records. We have to have the name and address of the speakers. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
All right, now I'm gonna talk a little bit about the project's overall purpose and scope. So in this project, we ensured to leverage both quantitative data from top-tier sources like the American Community Survey, which is a product of the US Census Bureau. We also made sure to leverage the most current market data that was available at the time. So utilize sources like Redfin, Zillow, and apartments.com. And we made sure to, seek input from residents and stakeholders to augment those findings. And then in terms of the scope of the project, it's important to understand housing as an overall ecosystem. It's critical to look at the demographic makeup of the city, right? Who lives here shapes what types of housing that are needed. So we looked at metrics like population, the size of households, income levels, things like that. We followed that with an analysis of economic trends, looking at metrics like the poverty rate, which industries do people tend to work in, right? What wages do they earn? What are the number of workers who commute into the city, and how does that compare to the number who might live in the city but work elsewhere? We then moved into an analysis of the existing housing stock, so looking at its composition, right? In terms of structure and types of homes. Then we moved into looking at the housing market, so what's currently being listed both for rent and for sale. What are the price points by type of home, right? And then we took a look at both housing challenges and housing gaps. And the quantitative data, it informed a series of recommendations that we developed as part of the recommendations report, looking at critical things like zoning and incentives for developers to encourage more housing. We also took a look at potential opportunities for partnerships and programming and funding opportunities at both the state, at both the federal and state or local level. All right, so this slide focuses on the key demographic findings. So the population throughout the city has increased quite substantially in recent years. So the population recently crossed the 40,000 mark, which represents a more than 110% increase since the turn of the century, right? So that's quite a dramatic surge. What we also did is we essentially estimated a statistical model that forecasted, how do we expect the population to change in the future? And what the model showed is that by 2030, it is expected to increase by about 17% and 73% by 2045. A real key finding is that the largest age cohort in the city are actually residents under the age of 20, right? Which is a departure from what we're seeing in many parts of the country, right? Due to factors like lower birth rates. Next, we found that Black or African Americans make up about 2/3 of residents throughout the city, and that about 2,600 residents are either current members of the armed forces or veterans. And last, we took a look at the share of residents who own their homes, and we found that about 48% own rather than rent their homes, which is actually an increase from the rate back in 2018. Next, we took a look at some of the economic trends. And what the data are showing is that incomes have actually increased in recent years. In 2023, the median income rose to over $76,000 in Douglasville. Even when you control for inflation, that's a $12,000 increase over 2018, right? So there's some real growth there. But what we're also seeing is that the gap, the income gap between homeowners and renters has widened. So much of that income growth was actually driven by owners whose incomes, the median income rose to over $110,000, which is nearly twice the median income of renters. Next, we found that about half of the workforce is employed in sectors like education, healthcare, retail services, and entertainment. And finally, it's really critical to also analyze what the commuting dynamics look like. It's critical to foster a balance between both jobs and housing. And what we found is that there are about 20,000 workers who commute into the city to work from elsewhere, whereas there are over 14,000 workers who live in Douglasville, but leave the city each day for work. And finally, there are just over 1,000 people who both live and work in the city. Next, I'm going to go over some of the key housing stock and housing market findings. So in 2023, there were about 15,000 total housing units in the city. And nearly 60% of those units were single-family detached homes. But critically, what we found is that in the ownership market, 96% of those units are single-family detached, whereas in the rental market, 69% of the units are actually multifamily units. Next, we found that the housing stock in Douglasville is relatively modern and young. So the median home was actually built in 2003. We also took a really close look at the price points in the rental market. And what we found is that the median unit rents out for just under $2,000. And what's important to understand here is that to afford a unit at that price point, a household needs to earn about $87,000 a year. That is the income that's needed to limit that monthly rent to less than 30% of income. And this is far above what the median renter household in the city earns, right? The median income for renters is actually under $60,000. So there's quite a large gap there. Next, we found that median rent, of course, varies quite a bit by the size of the unit. And what the data seem to suggest is that sort of what's driving rents to the levels that they're at is that there's quite a high share of larger units in the city, right? Next, in terms of the ownership market, median home prices, of course, rose quite dramatically during the 2021 through 2022 period. There has been a bit of a leveling off since then, right? So at the time we collected the data, the median home price was around $330,000. But single-family detached homes were a bit pricier than that. Those typically sell for closer to $360,000, whereas, for example, a townhome carries a median price of $317,000. Next, it takes just over 3 months for the typical home to sell, which is quite a bit longer than it took, back in 2021 or 2022, which suggests the market isn't quite as friendly to sellers as it was back then, right? Last, a really key measure that we like to use is called months of supply, which measures the amount of time it would take the current homes that are on the market to sell out. And this number is actually 5.3 months, which is within the healthy range. The range that's often given is 4 to 6 months. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about housing challenges and housing gaps. One thing that we made sure to look at was the prevalence of substandard housing. And what we found is that these units were actually quite rare throughout the city. So about 1.7 units per 1,000 lack complete plumbing. And this could be, for example, a house that doesn't have a shower in the bathrooms. And 6.8 per 1,000 lack a complete kitchen. This could be a home that, might be a rental that doesn't have a fridge in it, for example. 3% of housing units rely on non-standard fuel sources like wood, which is a relatively low rate, which is a positive sign. Next, as part of this report, what we sort of wanted to do was assess through a geographic lens what residents' risk of this placement or being priced out of their homes was. And we were able to create a composite measure of displacement using an array of demographic and economic variables, such as, one of the key variables that we looked at is, for example, the percentage of renters who are cost burdened in a neighborhood, meaning spending more than 30% of their incomes on housing, or the percent of families in a area who live in poverty. And what we found is that the risk of displacement was highest in the west and southeast of downtown. And last, what we also did was project how the demand for housing is likely to evolve going forward. So the most recent data at the time that we did the research showed that there were about 14,000 households in the city. We believe, based on recent trends, that this number is going to continue to grow, and that it'll cross 20,000 households between 2035 and 2040. And with that, I will turn it over to Jen.
Thank you. So we used a number of different community engagement methods to add to the data, kind of getting the lived experience of people who live here, who work here. And one of the ways we did this was through a resident survey. The survey received 93 responses, and while I would not call that a statistically significant survey, what it does do is help us to fill the picture of what does housing look like here. What do people like? What are their challenges? What we learned was that the majority of people are satisfied with their housing, which is a positive note. One caution to kind of go along with that is that almost half of people did say that housing costs are a major source of concern. And in fact, it's such a concern that some folks are reducing spending on essentials in order to be able to afford their housing. The vast majority of people said that it was at least somewhat important, very important, or important for the city to offer a wider mix of housing options. We'll talk a bit about what those could look like in a few bullet points. Another concern that we heard was that younger residents may not be able to afford to buy homes. So if you think back to that population graph we saw earlier, your residents are predominantly very young. That next cohort of young professionals is a very small population here, so that is potentially a missing population who could live here in the future. I had mentioned that there is a desire to see a wider mix of housing options. Things that were most favored in the survey included single-family detached homes, duplexes, which are housing with 2 units, triplexes, which would have 3 units, townhomes, and then accessory dwelling units, which sometimes are also called carriage houses or garage apartments, and then tiny homes. Additional stakeholder insights, things people really like about Douglasville include the diverse population, your proximity to major transit corridors, proximity to the city of Atlanta. All of these are opportunities, and city leadership. Some of the weaknesses that we noted were land availability, which of course is sometimes the easiest way to just build new housing, affordability challenges, market conditions, and of course development barriers. We'll talk more about potential solutions to these in a few slides. Some of the opportunities for Douglasville include financial tools. Those might include tax allocation districts, development incentives, looking at ways to provide public-private partnerships for additional housing, and then the adaptive reuse of aging properties. Some of the threats, which we also see nationally, include resistance to change. Change is always something that can be a little bit intimidating for folks, and then the potential also of political gridlock around addressing some of the housing challenges and identifying solutions as we move forward. One of the things we asked people was about housing types. What types of housing would you like to see more of here? You can see in the images some of the housing surveys where we asked meeting attendees to put dots by preferred housing types. What we learned from this exercise is that there is a strong demand for smaller scale housing that could include something called cottage courts. Those are typically smaller houses that surround a shared common open space area, as well as accessory dwelling units. As I mentioned previously, there is continued demand for single family housing and a modest demand for other missing middle housing types. And what we mean by missing middle could include those duplexes, triplexes, accessory dwelling units, basically anything that's more than 1 unit, but smaller than maybe 5 units. In addition to asking about housing types, we wanted to learn more about housing perspectives. How did meeting attendees feel about different housing statements and whether or not they were applicable to Douglasville? We learned again, there's strong demand for housing tailored to young families, for low-income residents, for seniors, and for the workforce. And what this goes to is that desire for additional housing types. Additional housing types allow more people at different points in life and at different income ranges to be able to access housing here in Douglasville. The general consensus was, hence the theme here, is that housing currently is not diversified enough to meet the needs of your community. Ways that we looked at solving this, one is looking at ways to update development standards and zoning. These recommendations are not for unilaterally changing every single zoning code. In the report, you can see where we talk more about addressing these issues within specific zoning districts. So things we would recommend considering include reducing minimum setbacks. This would allow buildings to go further to the actual lot line in certain circumstances. Looking at lot sizes, making sure that the minimum lot size is not too large. Looking at floor areas and lot coverage or impervious surface ratios. So again, looking at ways that more building could happen on a specific plot of land that can help improve the feasibility of diverse housing and of that missing middle housing that I spoke about earlier. There's also a possibility of increasing maximum density and height allowances. That's typically something we would see in a downtown or adjacent to downtown in by right zoning allowances. And what I mean by that is allowing things like accessory dwelling units or 2 units in more zoning categories across the city. We would also propose design standards that could ensure neighborhood compatibility. So as you increase the number of units on a lot, it's really important to make sure that these designs still work with all of the surrounding properties and the surrounding community. You can do this through facade requirements, so saying that the front of a building still has to be very friendly to the pedestrian experience or people walking around. You can do it by having step backs, so as buildings get higher, those higher floors step back from the surface from that front part of your building. You can also change parking layouts to make sure that they're located strategically, and then also having privacy features. For example, screening for parking so that as you're walking down the sidewalk, you're not looking at a bunch of headlights in a parking garage, and making sure that, again, you're keeping a friendly environment for folks on the street level. Lastly, on this slide, we would recommend looking at pre-approved designs for ADUs and missing middle housing. This can help speed up your development review process, where a developer, whether it's a homeowner looking to add onto their lot or a developer looking to build housing, can move through the process a little bit faster by picking a development that's already been approved by city staff. In addition to development standards, you can also offer incentives for additional housing. Things that could be tied to building affordable housing include density bonuses and parking reductions, allowing more building on a lot. We could look at financial fee relief, freeing up more money for the actual building, use of public land, and again, that fast track permitting that I talked about earlier. We want to make sure, though, any, whether it's development incentives or development code relief that's offered for affordable housing is tracked to monitoring and enforcement provisions, so that the city is getting the housing that was promised and those community benefits through what was given to a developer or landowner. There are additional opportunities for partnerships and programming. One could be expanding current partnerships. Example organizations include Habitat for Humanity, the Douglas County Housing Authority, and employer-assisted housing, especially when a lot of your employers, as you have here, are more of those institutional level employers. That's often a great place to look at for down payment assistance, rental assistance, et cetera. You could also offer technical assistance, whether that's for developers or for the community in accessing affordable and workforce housing, and then expanding the use of programs that help you keep the existing affordable housing in your community. Especially as housing stock ages, it becomes more important to have programs that expand the use of rehab for housing, for weatherization and preservation to make sure that folks are able to both age in place and maintain those homes over time. Financial recommendations. So affordable housing and workforce housing is still expensive to build, and so it requires a usually somewhat complex stack of financial tools in order to make it happen. So here we recommend, and the report goes into more detail, looking at local, state, and federal financial tools to increase housing development, and then looking at ways of tying those directly to either geographic areas, types of housing, income levels, et cetera, that you prioritize most within the city. Finally, this plan is dense. There's a lot of information, and so what we did was create an implementation matrix to help guide implementation over time. So we took all of the recommendations, started assigning them to responsible departments, giving you a timeline. What do we think should be initiated in the short term, the medium term, and the long term, as well as the potential and desired impact of that action. This will allow staff and council to go through the plan over time, adjust as needed to either changing priorities locally or changing circumstances in the national market to make sure you're taking advantage of any opportunities that may arise. With that, I would like to say thank you for your time and your investment in this effort, and we welcome any questions.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I appreciate all of the information as well as your efforts in gathering all this information to present to us. So thank you for that. Madam Mayor, Council, did you all have any questions? I know we did go over this as well at the 5 p.m. and had a lot of great discussion. So I just want to make sure we had this presentation as well at the 6 p.m. All right, seeing none. Are you all comfortable with placing this on the consent agenda? Okay,
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, I'd love to do that. And I want to thank you all so much for your time. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you to staff as well. And Madam Mayor, that's all we have for the Housing and Community Affairs Committee.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Hudson and Matrix, for the presentation. We'll move on then to item number 8, Legislative and Intergovernmental Committee, chaired by Mayor Pro Tem City Councilmember Terry Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have a couple items under the Legislative and Intergovernmental Committee.
Yes, sir.
The first is to authorize the mayor to sign an intergovernmental agreement with Douglasville, Douglas County Water and Sewer Authority for the purpose of DDCWSA, providing billing for sanitation services on city users' water bills. And we have the amazingly talented triumvirate, as they might have said in ancient Rome, of Miranda Jordan, Marcia Frazier, and Melissa Burdett, who will talk us through that.
Actually, this is a housekeeping item, so I will defer to Ms. Jordan so she can give you any updates to the agreements if there are anything substantive.
Good evening once again, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, Madam Mayor, members of council. This item, again, is a housekeeping item, and it extends the period of time for which the Douglasville, Douglas County Water and Sewer Authority can collect on water bills for city sanitation, allowing the Water and Sewer Authority to provide this service for us is a cost-saving measure for the city that is charged per user of a small fee in order to collect and transfer that money to the city. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, and how long does that extend?
The original agreement was from 2019, and it has been extended 2 times, I believe, already automatically. This will, sorry, I'm having a little trouble locating it. Oh, so this will be for an additional 5-year term, up to a maximum of 50 years, 50 years being the maximum amount of time.
50.
Yes, being the maximum amount of time that local governments or governmental adjacent agencies can contract with each other. That would be a 5-year term to renew.
So we'll have to come back every 5 years and renew it up to 50 years.
Yes, sir, that's
When our
correct.
great-grandchildren will be on city council and they'll be dealing
Oh,
with
I
it.
apologize. It's actually automatic unless we decide mutually that that's no longer beneficial to either party.
Even better. So unless one side says, well, let's change it, it just stays in effect. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So let our
apologize.
great-grandkids deal with it. All right. Any objection if we put this on the consent agenda? I think we will do that. All right. Our second item under the Legislative and Government Committee is adopt an ordinance to amend Section 2-50 of the City of Douglasville Code of Ordinances to, number 1, allow the mayor and city council members to be reimbursed for mileage for the use of personal vehicles, parking, and meals not to exceed $100 per event for one-day events held outside Douglas County. Second is to establish a 30-day reimbursement deadline. Third is to require valid receipts and official event documentation. And fourth, items amend conflicting ordinances, provisions. And 5, provide for other purposes. Ms. Miranda Jordan.
I believe your summary there on the agenda language pretty much covers everything, and there were additionally a couple of housekeeping changes that were indicated and are indicated by the blue text on your agenda item attachment. These were all reviewed at our July 6, 2026 committee's meeting in detail. The major change, of course, being reimbursement for one-day travel and the ability now for the members of the city council to be able to have lodging if they have an early morning meeting that is more than 50 miles away from the city of Douglasville.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Jordan. Any questions or comments from the mayor or any member of council at this time? Seeing none, if there's no objection, I'd also like to place this on the consent agenda.
Looks good.
We are so moved, so that'll be on the consent agenda for Monday. Madam Mayor, that's all we have under the Legislative Intergovernmental Committee at this time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you, Attorney Jordan. We'll move on then to Personnel and Organization Committee, chaired by Councilmember Howard Estes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Personnel and Organization Committee has no business this evening.
Thank you, Councilman Estes. Planning and Development Committee, chaired by Councilmember Nicole Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
I'd like to call the Planning and Development Committee to order. This evening, some of our items on our agenda will require a public hearing. Before we begin those items, I'd like to briefly review the procedures we will follow to ensure an orderly and fair process. These hearings are conducted in accordance with the Georgia Zoning Procedures Act. As elected officials, it is our responsibility to ensure that all applications are reviewed fairly, impartially, and in accordance with city zoning ordinances and adopted land use policies. For each zoning item requiring a public hearing, we will begin with a presentation from city staff outlining the request and any relevant findings. The applicant will then have an opportunity to speak. Following those presentations, the mayor and council may ask questions of both the staff and applicant. After that, we will open the floor for public comment. If you would like to speak in support of or in opposition to the application, please complete a comment card before approaching the podium. Comment cards are located near the entrance of the room and should be submitted to the city clerk before your turn to speak. Please include your name, address, and the item that you wish to address, and if possible, any specific questions you would like staff to follow up on. All comments should be made respectfully and directed to the chair. When you speak, please begin by stating your name and address for the record. If you ask a question, please understand we will not respond immediately during the public comment portion. Instead, staff will attempt to address all questions at once before the close of the public comment, provided the information is readily available. Each speaker will be allowed to speak up to 5 minutes. We will allocate a total of 20 minutes for comments in support and 20 minutes for those in opposition to. This is not a debate. Interruptions, outbursts, or other disruptions are not permitted. And as a reminder, the mayor has requested that there be no applause or other demonstrations during the meeting. Please ensure that your electronic devices are silenced, and anyone who disrupts the meeting will be asked to leave. And with that, we can proceed. Our first item is item number 26-220. So to hold a public hearing and consider a request for a variance from section 8.01 of the Unified Development Ordinance to reduce the side yard parking setbacks for 2.0 acres located at 1425 Municipal Parkway and Land Lot 735, District 18, Section 2, Parcel ID 0016, application by MHL Solutions. And Ms. Tubbs is going to go over this item with us.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Chelsea Tubbs, 6758 Spring Street, Planning and Zoning Administrator. The property at 1425 Municipal Parkway, also zoned as heavy industrial, is located around other heavy industrial and light industrial uses. It is located on Municipal Parkway. To the northern side, you have industrial access, and to the southern side, you have Veterans Memorial Highway. It is immediately next to Craig Wire Fiber systems, which you all kind of reviewed a couple years ago regarding some variances. The proposed use of the property is a motor freight trucking terminal for logistics and reshipment with approximately 30 trucking parking spaces allocated for the business. The applicant is requesting this variance to reduce the required side parking setback for industrial uses from 15 feet to 5 feet, so a total reduction of 10 feet from the code's requirement. The request is being made due to the site's physical constraints of it being a smaller industrial site and the size of the trucks at the facility. The applicant is also hoping to create a safer and more functional parking layout with additional maneuvering area for backing up and circulation purposes on the site. And I can answer any questions that you all have.
Thank you so much, Ms. Tubbs.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions for you. Madam Mayor, Council, do you guys have questions of Ms. Tubbs? No. Is the applicant here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you'll please come down and give us your name and address for the record, and then you can.
Add a little to it.
Yes, please.
My name's Larry Hurst. I'm the licensed qualifier for MHL Solutions, which is a general contractor. We're located at 2 Autry Road in Auburn, Georgia, 30011. The property was purchased by the owner for the purposes of creating this, we call it a trucking terminal. Really, it's going to be a parking lot. They service companies such as Amazon, Costco, and various similar trucking apparatuses. So it is an industrial area. During the planning period, we went back and forth, particularly with fire, trying to see that we had everything set up and that it would be a safe manner to be able to get vehicles in and get vehicles out and get our fire apparatus where they need to go, as well as our hydrants and water flow. In doing so, in order to make this work, we need to be able to get those parking places farther back to the sides, and in doing so, that's going to encroach on that 15, and we need 10 feet of it. Some mitigating factors there, I think we've already, or she's already discussed, the industrial area, the type of area that it is. It's not a homeowner or a residential area or anything like that. It is heavy industrial use. There will be a fence around this property for security. And whether it's 5 feet or or 15 feet, I would expect that exists for the purposes of appearance of the property. It's I don't know how tall they are, 15-foot high tractor trailer, whether it's 5 feet or 15 feet away from the property line, it's not really gonna matter, but we will mitigate that with that security fence. That will be there.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So am I understanding correctly, the trucks will come in, will they just park there, or are they like, I guess I understood it like they're moving, like changing shipments from one truck to another?
No, it will not be a terminal, so to speak, where we're unloading and loading. It's not like that. This will be a staging ground, is how I would describe it. So a truck will come in, it'll be staged there temporarily until it can meet its scheduled appointment arriving, whatever facility that it's going to. That way we're not backing trucks up on the side of 85.
Okay.
Or where are we? 20. So.
Okay, that makes sense. And then what is your truck route like to get them there?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I know that they simply come down Municipal Parkway and probably coming from the interstate, but I don't.
Right, and that's what I figured, that they would be coming from the interstate. I just wasn't sure, like, because I know that we've got a couple streets getting there from certain exits that are no truck traffic, so I just wanted to verify that we had.
Maybe a question for engineering. I know they looked at some of those things during the planning meetings, pretty much in detail, specifics as to what those. I'm not familiar with the area enough to be able to tell you, but it is spec'd with a privacy fence. There will be a gate. There is a small building, 40 foot by 40 foot, which will have showers and a place for them to change. And if somebody needs to change oil, they'll be able to pull inside the building.
Okay.
But other than that, we need 10 feet.
Right, okay, thank you. Madam Mayor, Council, Madam Mayor, you have a question? Hold on,
do.
Mr. Hurst. I think Madam Mayor has.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Council, for taking the time to see us. I think I missed that in the beginning.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman. So you said staging. That sounds like a play, which is good. It's probably what it is. Is this a truck stop?
Not a truck stop.
You said there's showers and...
No, it's specifically for this one company, Lang Trucking. So they're transporting these goods, they're transporting these tractor trailers to and from. So there may be a time where a trucker is there and drops his truck and needs somewhere to hang out instead of sitting in a truck with an engine running. You can go inside, there'll be an office. There will be a couple of break rooms for them to be able to use until they can leave to meet their scheduled appointment, wherever that may be.
Okay, so you're not gonna have a Buc-ee's there or anything?
There's no Buc-ee's.
No Buc-ee's?
There is a pretty serious security protocol.
Okay.
So it's not going to be like the truck stops on 80, or the places
was
on
just in
85
jest.
where we have all kinds of concerning visitors. It won't be like that. So everything's controlled access.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I was kidding. I know you wouldn't
no
have
Buc-ee's.
Buc-ee's. Yes, sir. Thank you
No
so
fuel.
much. Thank you, Madam Chairman. That's all I had.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council, any other questions of the applicant? I hope not. Okay. All right, thank you so much. At this time, this is a public hearing, so let's go ahead and open up the floor. If we have anyone here who would like to speak in support of this item, if you'll please come down and give us your name and address for the record. And if not, let's close that portion and move along. If we have anyone here who would like to speak in opposition to, if you'll please come down and give us your name and address for the record. And if we don't have anyone, we will go ahead and close out the public hearing, and we will take this item up on Monday. Our next item is item number 26-219. Says to hold a public hearing and consider a request for a variance to amend the condition from the previously approved variance to, looks like resolution 2025-30, said adopted on June 2nd, 2025 for 1.30 acres located at 9465 Highway 5 and Land Lot 160, District 2, Section 5, Parcel ID 0001, application by, is that LIA Engineering, I believe, and Mr. Gray is going to go over this with us.
Good evening once again, Dana Gray, 6785 Spring Street. Again, this is a request for a variance to amend the condition from the previous approved variance that happened in 2025 on June 2nd. Since this is a year ago, it is basically the same proposal, which is a convenience store with gas pumps, retail stores that is located Highway 5 at the Pop Shop, which was formerly Walgreens. The condition that is in the resolution reads, "The fourth retail unit shall not be leased and shall remain vacant, a vacant space in the building." The applicant is asking for a new condition, which states not to lease out the storage or hallway space and to be able to utilize the fourth retail space. And the applicant is present.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gray. I don't have any further questions of you, Madam Mayor and Council. Do you guys have any questions of Mr. Gray before the applicant comes up? Okay, thank you. Okay, if you'll please come and give us your name and address for the record.
Terry Boomer, 130 East Main Street, Canton, Georgia, 30114. I'm with LJA Engineering, if I just want to get that in there. LIA Engineering are our nemesis, so.
Okay.
I don't even know if there's
I
an
stand
LIA
corrected.
Engineering. I appreciate you hearing this proposal again. When we went away last time, we tried to come around a way with accommodating a reduction in parking. The convenience store, we park at the pump, we get our bread, our milk, our gas. We go inside, we leave. We don't park there. But we have some other retail shops, and some of those retail shops, originally, when our first proposal, they were 2,000 square foot plus shops. And one of the members and I, at my suggestion, well, now, parking space on square footage, so this is kind of a math question. I forgot a lot of my math. But I was at 2,200 square feet times 4. Now I'm at 1,700 square feet times 4.
Okay.
So I'm just going to lose 2,200, 2,400 square feet and not rent it at all.
Okay.
I'll be renting 4 shop spaces still. I'll be renting 4 shop spaces, but they're 4 smaller spaces than our original proposal.
Okay, and you're
we
using
find it
that
easier
other-
to rent to the smaller boutique shops.
Yes, sir.
When they're smaller because of finances.
And you're going to use the other for storage?
Don't know. Storage, it's going to be dark. There's nothing going to be put in it. We don't have any immediate plans for it.
So you'll still have 4
That's
renting?
correct.
Okay. It's kind of like girl math, I think you're trying to do. Yeah, okay.
I'm not going there, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, absolutely. Coach, I believe you had a question.
So when this came before us before, the variance was a request to reduce parking based on not 4 retail, but 3. But since then, now that we're back at 4, the square footage is less than the 4 it would have been before.
Correct.
But I guess my question would be, and I'll ask Mr. Gray this, if we were talking about parking spaces, what would the ordinance say for what the applicant wants to do now?
Okay, so with the proposed 4 spaces, based on 1 per 300 square foot, he would be required 22 spaces. And then the addition of the convenience store would be 26, which is roughly what it was before, for a total of 48 spaces.
48. So that's less than what we came from down to the 33 that we gave them a variance on, but it's still more than we're at right now.
Correct. We started with 56. The request was to reduce from the 56 to 33, which was approved. Now with this adjustment, he's required 48.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's. I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, got it. Anyone else, questions? Okay. I was a little curious, I know when we talked about this before, because we all had just concerns about reducing the amount of parking spaces, and you talked to us about the types of storefronts that you would be looking for or shopping for this type of lease. Does that change now, because now you're looking at a smaller facility, so where maybe you could have had like a tax preparer in there before, now that may not fit?
Thank you for the question. It does not change. It helps our economics because it helps the tenants' economics. They're just not prepared to take on the 2,200 square feet. 2,200 square feet, I typically reserve. I do a lot of QSRs, quick service restaurants. So from my Starbucks, if you will, to a Dunkin' Donuts, to Hardee's or a Popeyes or something to that effect, I'm at 2,200 to 2,500 square feet. The boutique shops that typically backfill these dark spaces, the larger convenience store or the larger drugstores, Office Depots, Office Maxes, are a smaller mom and pop boutique shop. They're trying to sell a product, if you will, but and make a name out there. But they need a smaller, more manageable, leasable space to cut down on their overhead, but still provide enough room for their product.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. If there were no further questions, let's go ahead and open up that public hearing. Right quick, and if we have anyone here who would like to speak in favor of, if you'll please come down and give us your name and address for the record. And if not, if we have anyone here who would like to speak in opposition to. Okay, let's go ahead and close the public hearing. And we will take this item up on Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, our next item is item number 26-226. Says to hold a public hearing and consider a request to adopt a proposed ordinance to amend Article 3 of the Unified Development Ordinance to add a new subsection 3.0.8 and amend subsections 2.0.2 and 8.0.1 for a new zoning classification. Mr. Gray.
All right, here again. This is a proposal to add a new zoning classification to our UDO, Unified Development Ordinance. The zoning classification will be called MDR, which stands for Medium Density Residential. It is created to establish and provide smaller detached single-family cottage-style housing types. Within the city, there has been a shift in demographics and a desire for different types of housing opportunities for seniors, retirees, young professionals, and those that could be eligible for workforce housing, such as teachers, nurses, et cetera, are seeking, and these are seeking more affordable options. So MDR will provide more opportunities for affordable home ownership, and this will help address affordability and missing middle. And of course, we just had the presentation for the housing, so this really kind of fits right on time with those findings. We have provided the standards, supplemental standards, and added architectural features that will ensure that the design of the homes will maintain a cottage feel of the area. So we already have that in the downtown area and New Horizons. So this will definitely keep in lieu of those features. We will be adding features that have been, that have been added and required, such as porches, decorative columns and railings, a choice of asphalt or metal roofs. The metal roofs will be of neutral colors, so I don't really have anything blaring out there. Accessory structures will require the same materials as the main dwelling. We will require a minimum of 1-car garage and or carport with a maximum of 2 cars. And during our housing study process, which was reviewed, Mayor and Council, I'm sorry, that's late, so I'm just reading on. So the community did voice their opinion during that housing study, and like what was presented, cottage style courts, ADUs, and definitely a desire for those smaller units. So we will have features in that new ordinance, such as smaller lot sizes, which are 4,000 square foot as a minimum, 800 square foot homes with a maximum of 1,200. So that'll ensure that we're kind of locked into that cottage feel. And just a little bit more into it, this will give seniors an opportunity to be more independent if they're downsizing. They don't have to move in with their kids, and if they're at that level of affordability, or a senior couple can afford that, then this will be a perfect thing for them. And of course, those who are, again, eligible for workforce housing, like the nurses and teachers and firefighters and police, this is another good opportunity. So MDR will focus on the downtown area, New Horizons, as well as infill opportunities throughout the city. So, and just a quick note, during the Planning Commission, there was a concern of it was said of guardrails so that this doesn't go off in a different direction. But since this is a new classification, anybody interested in building using this classification would have to rezone. So that is a fail-safe mechanism, which council has, Planning Commission and council has the opportunity to review and weigh in on that proposed development. And that concludes.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Question, I know that we talked about this being like sometimes for infill type developments where we have small pockets of land where you couldn't have otherwise gotten more than maybe one home on it. Is there a certain minimum of acreage to do this type of development?
I forgot to write that one down. We were at
4,000?
We did a minimum lot size, which is 4,000 square foot.
Right,
So
so there can be just like one single home?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I'm sorry.
But you could do a number of acreages, but you would have to maintain that minimum or a little bit higher square footage for that lot.
Okay.
So
And will this be like an overlay type district, or will this be available anywhere in the city of Douglasville?
right now, it's anywhere, and that was one of the questions from the Planning Commission. It's anywhere in the city, but
Okay.
if it pleases the council, we can address that and look into that as well.
Okay, and then I know that you kind of hit on this already, the like building materials, the aesthetics, they're very much in line to everything else that we have in our code currently. Is that right?
Correct. So brick, siding, a percentage as a secondary material, shake and shingle. So most cottages, I think you all have the pictures, most cottages do use those type of materials, which gives it a nice warmer feel. And if it's not on slab on grade and they have a crawl space, you wouldn't have the lattice going around the house. It would be required to put brick, which is a nicer feature for that. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Gray.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, did you have?
I did, thank you, but not, Coach, you want to go ahead? No, go ahead. All right, thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Gray. Couple of things, I do see where you have, there's 40% impervious surface, so that will help, kind of, so it wouldn't just be like a brick slab, so some grass and trees.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's the one thing. You did also mention about aesthetics. And maybe, you're saying that it's a new part to our zoning and development, but if it's in our ordinance, they don't necessarily have to come before us if it's passed. If they meet the requirements, then we won't have those guardrails. They met the requirements and they can go ahead and build.
Well, we don't have MDR in place.
Okay.
So right now, if we look something up for an individual that's inquiring about development, that they can go to a parcel that's zoned R2 already. or R5, yes, yes.
Okay, and maybe, I mean, it may not be popular, but kind of relegate it to downtown and New Horizons, just so we can see what it's gonna be before we go everywhere.
Okay.
Just asking, I mean, just put a bug. That's all I had.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Coach, I know you had your hand up.
This question may be for Mr. Gray, maybe for Ms. Frazier. Do we have property near the downtown that's been identified as potential for this? And the second part of that question is the item that came before us a couple months ago, where they wanted to do some smaller houses or cottages type houses. Is that the type of development that we're talking about here?
I'll ask Mr. Gray to share some photos with you, but to his point, I mean, these are already the style of homes that this zoning is modeled after. You already have these homes existing in the downtown and on in the New Horizons area, and even in particular some in Tributary. So it really is to mimic what's already there and taking the design style back to things that would have been more in line with what we would have considered traditional housing types. We do have two developers in particular that have approached both community development and myself who've pushed for us to have a similar type of zoning such as this. What the developers are indicating is that having a smaller footprint will allow them to take lots, parcels that, say, for instance, that are 3 or 4 acres, and they can build in a neighborhood of homes that are priced at between $450,000 and $500,000, and they can still get nice single-family homes in that area. So that's what we're looking at. That's what we're aiming toward. And to the mayor's question, and just to really hone in on what Mr. Gray is mentioning, because this is a new zoning classification, anyone interested in this will have to come before you. So you are the approver. You can choose to either grant it or not. So regardless of where you put, you actually have the guardrails in place by currently not having it actually anywhere in the city.
And if I may add on to that, the zoning team often receives inquiries on development, and most of the developers, you know, they want a larger return on their investment, so they're doing the bigger homes and bigger lots. But at the same time, we were trying to encourage to take advantage of smaller lots to provide for the demographics that I have mentioned. But now we've had several developers, as Ms. Frazier has mentioned, that are coming to us and asking us to provide that. So I think that's really a good sign of what we have here. So.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gray. Anyone else? Nobody? Okay.
Oh, Mayor Pro Tem?
Sorry about that, Mayor Pro Tem.
Disgrace the name of Miller. Thank you, Madam Chair. Couple things. You're establishing a 20-foot setback minimum for the lots, and I'm wondering where that number came from, only because when you start with a 4,000 square foot lot, that'll fill up pretty quickly. So I'm wondering if we ought to consider shrinking that a little bit to give just a little bit more developable space on these lots, especially because in light of the fact that the setback to the sides is 8 feet. So you're allowing houses to be pretty close to each other, but then you've got this generous setback in the front. But I'm wondering if we could shrink that a little bit and make, again, the whole idea is to give it more of a denser sense. So if you push the houses a little bit closer to the street, I think even if you get it down to 5 or 10 feet, I think might make more sense on that. A couple of the minor things, but on the architectural descriptions, you're saying columns must be decorative. I'm wondering how we define that. It's like the old...
And if I'm not mistaken, it said consulting with the community development director or the designee. So, right. So is it Doric? Is it Doric, Corinthian? Is it?
Yeah.
Are
we talking Corinthian, Ionic, or Doric? I mean,
right.
Or square versus round, pilaster versus full. So I don't know. We might want to think about the language on that.
Okay.
And last is the roof color says neutral, which again I think is a little bit of a charged term. We may want to just come up with at least more generic sense like earth tones or brown neutral, red neutral, things like that, just give some sort of a more understandable palette to what neutral means, because I can see people taking that definition in different directions, so.
Neutral red compared to bright yellow or something. Bright red, yeah, okay.
No neon,
Brown and
right?
black.
No neon, but anyway, those are just a couple of things I spotted off the bat. Okay. That's all I have for now, Madam.
Thank you for
Chair.
those.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. If I can share with you, I think that the idea behind the larger setbacks in the front yard was to give it the same feel as the existing neighborhood that's already there. But I think that we could always look at doing a variance case by case, but to go ahead and set that standard.
Well,
Thank you.
If the intent is down, I mean, we're spotting downtown as the thing, we already have smaller setbacks in downtown to begin with, so. But yeah,
In
I
certain
have a
areas,
problem.
but not in all, yeah. Thank you.
I'm not
Okay.
opposed to that.
Anybody else?
And to a point, the developer does have an option to put a carport, toward behind the house, so you have a longer driveway. They will have an option, I think one of the pictures shows, you still get the cottage feel, but there's a one-car garage attached to it, but it's just not popping out like your typical garages that you would see. So if that's the case, then, nowadays everybody parks on the pad and doesn't want to use the garage, so, and not to encroach on the sidewalk.
It's actually, you brought up a good point. Do we have any, is there a provision that encourages parking to the rear on these lots?
No,
No? Because if we have
because
driveways.
we don't have the space to be able to do it.
Well, if you're starting with a 4,000 square foot lot, you should have space. I don't know.
Because the area I have seen, you have carports that are closer to the street, close to the house, and then you have carports that are to the rear. You have no garages, no carports, but just a driveway with perhaps a concrete pad where you park, and then you might enter your house from the rear. So there appears to be, different scenarios that has happened in the downtown area in New Horizons. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. If there is no one else, you guys, this is a public hearing. So at this time, let's go ahead and open up that public hearing. If we have anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this item, if you'll please come down, give us your name and address for the record. And if we do not, if we have anyone here who would like to speak in opposition to, if you'll please come down, give us your name and address for the record. And if there's no one, we will go ahead and close this public hearing and take the item up on Monday. Thank you so much, you guys. Madam Mayor, that is all that we have this evening for planning and development.
Ooh, that was a lot. Thank you, Madam Chair. We appreciate you and Mr. Gray, Ms. Tubbs, and the other applicant for the facility, retail facility. You are still on deck, Madam Chair, for Public Improvement and Beautification Committee.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'm so glad I looked at it. We do have one item this evening, and that says to adopt an ordinance amending section 70-41 of the solid waste ordinance regarding the sanitation fees, annual fee adjustments, and effective date for new rates. And Ms. Marina Jordan is going to go over this item with us.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Once again, we have an amendment that will do a little bit of cleanup to our section 70-41 of the Code of Ordinances. There's some redundant language that's being removed, and the ordinance will now state upon adoption that fees for sanitation will be set and adjusted by the mayor and council each year. Doesn't specifically say this in the ordinance, but in practice, that would be discussed at your annual mayor and council strategic planning retreat. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So if I turn that back on, thank you so much. I don't have any questions quite yet. Madam Mayor, Council, do you guys have questions of this item? No? Dang it, Ms. Jordan, I think you did a really good job explaining that to us. Okay. Are you guys comfortable placing this on the consent agenda?
Looks like a go.
Okay, I appreciate that so much. Thank you. Madam Mayor, that is all that we have this evening for public improvement and beautification.
Thank you so much, Madam Chairman, and thank you, Attorney Jordan. We'll move on to, I'll ask Councilman Estes if he wouldn't mind taking Public Relations Committee as well as Public Safety Committees.
Sure thing, Madam Mayor. We have no business in the Public Relations Committee this evening, and we also have no business under Public Safety this evening.
Thank you so much, Councilman Estes. Councilmember Watts, would you please take Recreation, Culture, and Tourism Committee?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business tonight in Recreation, Culture, and Tourism.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Caldwell, Technology Committee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business under Technology Committee this evening.
Thank you, sir. Transportation Committee, Councilwoman Elena Hudson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business under the Transportation Committee this evening.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there any other business to come before council tonight from the elected officials? Anything going on? Venezuela won. I went to the Goals on the Green last night. It was a lot of fun. So looking towards FIFA to see, I think Sunday or something is the next match. We do have, not the chief may announce, we have a retirement coming up. Shannon Dean. Yes, I know. Maybe the chief will talk about it. But that's all I had. Anything else from council? All right, if not, we'll go updates from our city staff, our city attorney, Mr. Joel Dodson.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Attorney Dodson. Staff attorney, Ms. Miranda Jordan.
No business, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Attorney Jordan. Our chief of police, Dr. Gary Sparks.
We have our annual accountability and justice meeting at 10 o'clock on Saturday at the police department. If you can come by, come on out. We have some other speakers from other areas to come in to speak. And we'll be starting our Youth Against Violence program that same day. But as you mentioned, yes, Sergeant Dean is retiring. You know, congratulations to her.
Dude, how many years? You know.
Long time, 30.
I'm doing her letter. I think it's 32. That's a long time. She's very friendly. 32. Yep. Thank you so much, Chief.
Yes.
So you start Youth Against Violence starts back up as well.
Starting Saturday, and for the Justice and Accountability meeting, we'll have a light, very light breakfast. So we're asking all our citizens to come out.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chief. Our city city manager, Ms. Marcia Frazier.
Yes, ma'am. Only thing, just to remind you all that Monday is your first millage rate public hearing at 10 a.m. For those who will be able to be here, it will be in this room. And just reminding that despite what's being published, we are advertising for a tax increase due to inflationary increases, not the fact that the city is increasing taxes. So Ms. Callen will have that presentation on Monday. We followed you all's instruction from February of keeping the millage rate the same, which is what we're doing, and she will get into detail about where those increases are coming from, which we are showing that the overwhelming majority of those increases are due to commercial property and not residential.
Yes, ma'am. So we are keeping the millage rate the same, but based on the state's requirements and recommendations and how the law is written, it does appear to be a tax increase because of inflationary rates and the assessments of the real property.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, you all have instructed that you want to keep the millage rate the same, so unless you all instruct us to do something different, that's been the position of the staff.
All right, thank you so much, City Manager. We've come to the part of our agenda, comments from citizens and delegates. If you sustain the meeting and you'd like to speak to us, please come forward, give us your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes to talk to us about anything germane to the city of Douglasville. No takers. Okay, if we don't have any other business to come before us this evening, this meeting is adjourned.